Ashe, ashe. Banga, alafia. Ashe, ashe. You never know what you're going to get when you tune in to Indigo's Ideas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are the Mamas of Indigos. This is Mama Dawn, also known as Mama Omilade.
Hey Omilade.
Who else is in the building?
This is Yeye Dandara. How you doing?
Hey. And I am Mama Jamila Niera, also known as Mama J.
All day.
And this is Mama Tanya Anki Ma'at.
What you talking about, my aunt?
Hey.
Yes.
And so we are joining you today. We are gathered, me and my sisters, we are gathered here to talk about the healing wheel. So those of you who know us know that we have been putting on an annual healing wheel retreat for 13 years or so. I believe there has been 13 healing wheel retreats. This might be the 12th. The numbers, we get them all. I just said 13, then I said this might be the 12th, right? I think this is the 13th this year. But what we want to talk about is, what does that mean, the healing wheel, right? Because you hear the healing wheel retreat, but what is a healing wheel?
Right. Now, if you look it up online, there are several different healing wheels that are used for various things. But this one that we use for the healing wheel retreat was created by our Sister Mama General Neajla Hendricks Wilson, Eliosha Omi Ire Olomo, also known as Mama Nia. And that was created by her because that was part of her practice, the Healing Wheel PLLC, right?
Yeah.
And as a licensed clinical social worker, this is the healing wheel that was created by her, and it is very specific, has some very specific components.
Right. It's this eclectic model of therapy, right? She wanted to create a way of healing, of treating people, especially indigenous people, especially people of color, particularly Black people, a way that heals us in a way that is alternative, that includes alternative healing modalities and addresses holistic needs as they pertain to mental health. So it has 7 aspects. You want to name those?
First is culture, traditions, values, history, symbols, art, and identity.
Yes. And and it's so interesting is before we went on, we were talking about which one is first, like where does it start? But that's the whole beauty of a wheel, right? A wheel, you never know where it starts.
Right.
But and because it kind of starts different places for different people. So when I think of the wheel, as far as these 7 concepts, I think of identity kind of as the beginning for me, right? And it's interesting because Jay started with culture and ended with identity. And I think, okay, for me, healing begins with where and how I identify, right? I identify as a Black woman, right? Those are part of my identity. A mother is part of my identity. I'm also a daughter. I'm a lover, right? I'm a friend. I'm an educator. All those things are part of my identity. And then when we work from this place of identity, that's where I identify what my culture is, right? What cultural groups, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And identity is it is all of the things that we are. It's all of the things, all of those things that I just named, and each one of our identities is different, right? What are the things that make up, that compose me, that make me who I am? The where, the how, the why, all of those things are part of my identity. And identity is a big part of how we move through the world, how we navigate spaces, how we identify. And that is crucial when you're attempting to work with people. If you're talking about healing, if you're talking about being their friend, right? You think about how kids on the playground, children, you watch children on the playground. You put 2 5-year-olds on the playground, they become best friends instantly.
Right.
Why? Because they identify with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm 5, you 5. Oh, snap.
We're friends.
We're best friends.
Right.
Who you here with? Your mom? Oh, I'm here with my mom too. Oh,
Right.
we got moms.
Right.
Yep.
We best friends.
Mm-hmm.
You like to play on the sliding board? Me too. I like to slide too.
Right.
Yeah. That's so easy when you get a little older, though.
Right.
But it is the same thing. You know, I agree that, you know, we do have those things that identify us is what that we self-identify as, I'll say, determines what slot you fall into in the cultural understanding of who you are in the big picture. So it's kind of like I can see why you would start there. Yeah.
And that's a great take. For me, it starts with culture because we're brought up in our culture. So I don't identify, how I identify is set by the culture that I come up in.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I don't, you know, you probably didn't create, you don't know who you were, what your identity is until you're maybe a teenager, maybe really an adult. But all of that is shaped by the culture that you were born into, how your parents raised you, the ideals and the society or the surrounding group that you are brought up in, and their ideas and their traditions, and that all kind of shapes your identity. Now you can refine that and like, well, I'm not gonna go that way, I'm gonna go this way. But I think that kind of comes later, and that is part of like when you're deciding to embark upon this journey anywhere on this wheel. It'll meet you where you are.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
It'll meet
That
you
is
where
an
you
excellent
are.
point.
Yeah, and I like that. You know, I'm kind of vacillating between like I'm looking at this identity and culture as well, because identity is such a choice, whereas culture is less of that. And that may be why you're also saying, like we revisit identity again the older we get, you know, or later on in life, or even just high school and then college, or whatever it is, you know, different age things. You kind of check in with your identity, because do you even still identify with the traditions or culture, even though like culture, some of it is is almost innate, you know what I mean, like you're born into it, but then some of it, because it includes traditions and values and things like that, you may choose to no longer identify with that in that way. And so for me, even though a lot of what I do is so culturally based, I have to choose that every day though.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, like identity is such a major part of this wheel, because you even have to identify that you're even part of this wheel.
Right. Agreed.
You know? Yeah, you know. But I feel like identity is one of those things, it just, you kind of check in with it periodically. Like, am I that same person?
Yes.
Do I still hold these same values?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point that you said. Identity is a choice, right? And culture is necessary. Culture. When we talk about what culture is as an entity, it is literally the lens through which you see the world.
Exactly
It's how
that.
you navigate spaces. It is what has been passed down to you. Culture is passed down. It's the way you're raised, right? Our
Agreed.
cultural upbringing, or whether you say yes ma'am and no sir, or whether you put how much sugar you put in your Kool-Aid, whether or not you drink the Kool-Aid at all, right?
Exactly.
Whether you celebrate Christmas or Kwanzaa, or all of the things, or what you do on your birthday, right? I remember asking a question one time to a class about how they, I asked who celebrated Christmas, and then I asked them how they celebrated Christmas, and they didn't even realize how much diversity there was among the ways that people celebrate Christmas. They're thinking, oh, we're all unified, we all celebrate Christmas.
Right.
But it's like, well, one person was like, well, my family, we gather on Christmas Eve at my grandma's house and we have dinner and that's when we open all our gifts. We usually just sleep in on Christmas Day. One was like, oh no, we do this this has to happen on Christmas Day in the morning. Oh no, this has to happen. Like there was so many varying ways. And culture is all that. But culture is like I said, it's the lens through which you see the world. It's how you navigate spaces. It's values, right? Which is interesting because those things are on the healing wheel as well. And then it's your ethnicity, right? And I think about how that impacts who we are. Race and culture are two different things, but they're oftentimes conflated. Because especially in this country, your racial background indicates and implicates who you are as a cultural being, right? Yeah. How you interact with others, things that your family does,
or how you're expected to do so, anyways.
Ooh,
yeah,
whether you do or don't.
When we talk about culture, oftentimes part of the definition of culture, we talk about culture includes those traditions, which is the next aspect on the healing wheel, and those values. Those things are part of our cultural upbringing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And culture in this aspect though, I think also if I could dig into Mama Nia's mind when she created this, I think she's also talking a large part about, especially for her own self, about Africanness and what that means.
Absolutely.
What does it mean to be an African, a person who is a descendant of African people,
right,
in this country? What does that look like, and what does that mean for your culture?
And how are your traditions shaped by the culture that you are moving through and identify as? Like, even when you were talking about the different ways that your students spoke of their traditional celebrations, that can be based on the lens, the cultural lens that you have as well. But I was thinking about from the perspective of values. I was kind of meditating on that values. How do values come into play of as it pertains to how you form your identity. So what you value, what your family values, what your culture values, very often determines what your position is in the world. It's like, okay, now I'm looking at this and I'm saying, oh wow, my values are shaped by the culture I'm in and the traditions that I abide by, and the even sometimes the history, the history of your family and their role in the culture.
Yeah.
And so all of these things are so interrelated, which I really love, because when you start to break this wheel down into its LCD, like my dad always says, break it down to its LCD. And when you do that, you realize how complex the human experience really is, and how if you're not paying attention to aspects of that, all these different aspects of who you are, if you're not integrating them, then the wheel, you fall off the wheel, if you will. You know what I mean? It's like, because you're not feeling yourself as a whole and complete entity. You're kind of splintered. So even though you can take one area and concentrate on that one thing, you'll still find yourself intersecting if you're really doing it correctly,
Right, and it's like you kind of need to. There's it's a wheel, so there's really no beginning and
no end. Yeah, absolutely.
All of these things impact each other. Like, it's not just your family history. In terms of like healing, it's a healing wheel. It's a method or concepts that are used, an approach, an approach to healing, and you have to include all of these things in order to become a completely whole and healed person. And you can't leave any of it out. It's not just the history of your family, it's also the history of how you live in this country, of of how we are treated in this country and what we've borne, what we've had to wear, what we've had to carry in this country. That I'm just speaking on history there, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
And how does that history affect the culture? The symbols that you see, the symbols that are placed upon you. You know how people see you, not just all of that. And then they got art is all here as well. Art is a reflection of, often a reflection of the times that you live in, or the situations that you live in. Art is a form of expression and also protest and also love. You know, and so that's on this wheel too. It's like all of these things impact one another.
Yeah.
They can't find wellness and health and healing without including all of those things.
And even if you like separate it, even just specifically from like, you know, the culture that we're familiar with, you know, African American, that experience. But if you just look at it just simply for like what the words are, culture, traditions, values, like all of those things go into healing regardless, right? Like I remember our founder, Mama Nia, she was a therapist, and she, you know, sometimes as a therapist, she practiced, her clients were of a lot of different backgrounds, basically. And so even as, you know, so sometimes the questions to even her clients would be like, well, what is your history? How does your history inform how you got here? How does your culture inform? So all of the things that we see on this wheel that she created is a template. Even no matter what your cultural background is, these are the things you've got to delve into. How am I identifying? What symbols are linked to my culture? What is the history of healing in my culture?
Ooh, yes.
Right? So not just the
right
history of my people, but what are the history of healing? Like even what healing practices have been passed down historically, or what things do we brush under the rug as a collective people, or maybe as a family, our family history, or as a cultural, you know. So all of these things are, you know, broad and specifically important.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The concept of history in healing, I need us to slow down for a second. For me personally, this is about me here. I'm centering myself in the healing wheel. But no, seriously though, that's super deep. That's super, super deep. This talking about the role that history plays in healing, because we talk about history on so many levels. You have my personal history on this earth, my human experience, right? Whether it is through whether or not I was abused or molested, or whether I've had a wonderful childhood, right? Or whether I grew up with a single mom or a single dad, or like I said, or I was spanked frequently, right? All of those things, my history, how I did in school, what schooling was like for me, what kind of relationships I have had over my life, my first kiss, you know, all of those things, whether or not romance and friendship, whether or not those things have been positive or negative experiences, is a super important aspect of how we heal. And that's just one dimension, right? Because then we have our family history, the history, our family's history, where our people are from, right? How our people how my mother's history, my father's history, how they were raised, where they were raised, how that impacts who I am, how not just where they were raised, but again, that how they were raised, right? How that impacts, I just said this, I'm repeating myself, how that impacts who I am and how they are raising me. And then we have, of course, our cultural history, right? The history of our people. When we do our genealogy, when we go back and we trace as far back as we can go, looking at the people and the things that they have been through. My aunt Christine, who has passed on, told the story about how my grandmother, my father's mother, had something called St. Vitus dance when she was about 14, 15. And it's some kind of illness that we don't hear about nowadays, but it was a nervous thing that it caused her to jerk. And I guess that's why they called it St. Vitus dance. And she just said she just kind of outgrew it. Interesting, right? But that's just something in history that I think about, nervous conditions and things like that, and so it's important. I know Mama Nia used to be really big about
I was just
us
gonna talk about
studying
that. The genogram.
our history, the genogram, right?
Right.
Not just
remember that.
who your people are, not just the family tree, but the history of illnesses, and especially mental illness or physical illness,
Right.
right? All of that stuff is so important in our history. I mean, listen, y'all. I'm about to jump out the chair because I'm thinking about when you go to the doctor, even the physician, the Western medicine, they want to know your family
It is an
history.
essential part of your assessment. It is
Yeah,
an essential part.
absolutely.
Yeah, like whether this breast cancer or what other condition may run in your family, and then who had it.
Because
You know.
that determines how they treat you.
Right. Or and also how the ways that you eat, the way that you think, how you perceive your body, your health in general, all of that. You're saying.
No, I was just saying that your family history also informs like, okay, what kind of treatment can we give you for this? Like like when I went and I was saying well, yeah, hypertension runs in my family. They were like, okay, do you know what your mom and your dad, what medicine they were given, and was it working, and blah blah blah. So there's so many reasons why who we are in a historic perspective really informs what happens in your future. Not just what that's not, we think, oh, that had to do with my dad and my mom, it didn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah,
But it does. It really impacts, because you are a conglomerate.
Yeah.
You are a combination of all those entities and those people who kind of came together and made the genetic makeup that makes you up. And I just think that we discount that very often. But I really was thinking about the genogram thing as we were talking even earlier, because I remember being very what's the word I'm going to use? Stubborn about not wanting to do it. I guess that's the really,
Talk a little bit about what the genogram is for folk who don't know. Can we
pointing at me?
we point at each other?
Everybody
like,
looking at
somebody talk
Uncle
about the genogram.
Well, what I know of the genogram is that you're supposed to go through this is your grandparents. This is these are the things that they did. This is the life that they lived. This is the kind of this is some, like you said, some of the illnesses or diseases that impacted them. These are the things that their vocation, so that kind of informs, oh, my grandfather was a farmer, that's probably why I like gardening, or blah blah blah. So all of that stuff, I remember when my daughters were part of the initial rites of passage program, and they were asking a lot of the questions, and they went to my mom and my and family members and stuff, and they were asking me questions. And if my first thing was, why do you want to know all that? Why are you in my business? That was
why you in my business?
What I realized as we've been doing this work over the years, what I realized is that is their business. As much as it is they have a right to that information as much as anyone else would. I mean, you can tell it to your doctor, but you can't tell it to your kids. I mean, really, what's that about? And it wasn't anything other than the fact that I was just being like, well, I don't know why. I don't really know what my push was not to do it. But it was just a thing that I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'll do this, and this, but I'm not going to do that. And I still don't know why. I find that kind of interesting, because it does speak to healing.
Yes.
We're talking about this thing because there's some things that we, I think it's W.E.B. Du Bois that said that we cannot fix what we will not face.
Right, right.
Right. And so sometimes in our effort to get past certain things, we think that we can just blow past it. But you cannot, because these things are part of the wheel that turns your life forward, or it's like you can't really get past that. You have to look at it whether you want to or not. These things, these spokes along this wheel,
exactly
are important as any other thing that you're focusing on.
Every spoke is vital to the integrity.
Yeah,
of the
all
wheel.
right.
Ooh, she said
Ooh.
every spoke is vital to the integrity of the wheel.
Damn right.
Yeah, yeah,
Come
yeah.
on.
I needed
Yeah.
to say that. We needed to say that again and slow it down. That's what we're doing today.
Actually, I
Wow.
wanted to add this here while we're talking about the history, because you just said something, Mama J, that I think in our culture, Black culture, African culture, we tend to. There's some things we don't want to talk about in the history of our family lines and in the history, even our health, right?
Right.
We sometimes in our culture have had a history of hiding
Yeah.
things that need to be healed. Right?
Yes.
And so when we talk about even with history being on this wheel, so then what is the history of your own family's method of healing?
Right.
Does your own family
Mhm.
keep secrets?
Yeah.
Does your own family, afraid to say cancer? They'll just say the C word, or they got that thing. You know what I mean? You know how we do sometimes in our group, like we don't even want to say certain things.
Like the sugar.
Oh, you got that sugar, got that, whatever is going on, and so it's just like, so even that when we talk about history, and even that is unique to each family, because I've known people, like even in my own upbringing, like, my mom, my parents, they would take us to the doctor and the dentist. Like we had regular appointments, but we weren't just running to the doctor for every little thing. Like I remember going through this phase where I had a hard time breathing, is the best way I can describe it. It almost felt like I wasn't getting enough air, which later on was like a mild case of like childhood asthma, very mild. But it's gonna make my mama sound bad. I love you, mama. But at the time, she was like, "Girl, go sit by the window, get some fresh air."
Right.
This went on for
Which may or may not have helped.
which may or may not have helped. And I mean, I survived, or like for a long time, I had a mild seafood allergy. Well, everybody in my family ate shrimp. So I just felt, okay, well, you just feel weird when this food comes out. You know what I mean? You just don't. Nobody was like, here's an EpiPen. Not back then.
Not back then.
I don't know. So
They make you eat more so to get rid of it. Hurry up, eat all this
Exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy.
And so but if it was something, obviously if I was like falling on the floor, or whatever, we would go to the doctor. But I've known people, like friends I've heard their parents say, "Hey, I ain't taking you to the doctor if something happened to you. You better figure it out."
Oh,
Or
okay.
you better, So that is part of your history.
Yeah.
That you have to almost be dying
Oh.
before you get help. So then how does that inform how the
Move
process
forward.
of
Wow,
healing?
yeah. Wow.
Because in your family, you don't ask for help, or we don't talk about healing problems or things of that nature, things that need to be healed.
Right.
So, what is the history in your own culture, but also in your specific household? And how does that inform, how you go about healing?
Right. We're only one generation removed from Tuskegee.
Yeah.
The Tuskegee syphilis experiment.
Come on.
And we talk about
Or
why
sterilizations.
Right? Why black folk in this country don't trust medical professionals or medical institutions in large part because of the being hoodwinked and not even hoodwinked, but just treated like animals, like just really
experimented upon and
disgusting.
Treated totally like animals.
Disgusting. So that history matters. History matters for sure.
And it has been scientifically shown that kind of treatment, which is trauma, can reside in our bodies. It is imprinted on us, and it is a visceral kind of reaction. A visceral kind of they call it white coat syndrome. Okay.
No, it's white folk syndrome.
We're sitting in an environment that has been detrimental, and nobody in this place understands me. That's the feeling.
Yeah.
Nobody in this place really cares about me. But I got to be here because something's so wrong. Something is so wrong that I'm driven to be here.
Yeah. Even against my better judgment.
Against my better judgment, against my feeling of knowing that this environment is not the best for me.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm really totally misunderstood and misplaced by the people who are about to treat me.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are treating you don't see it. They don't appreciate it, even if they've ever been told about it.
And that's the most, and that's when you're the most vulnerable. A lot of
Mhm.
times, like you,
Not well.
literally, you have to disrobe.
Disrobe.
A lot of times, you're naked at the doctor's office, or a part of you is from the waist down or waist up, whatever it is they're checking.
Right.
And look at, you're so vulnerable, and you're just wanting someone to help you, and you're bringing this history and this culture into that medical facility because you're automatically thinking like, oh my gosh, I hope that they actually treat me well. I hope that this doesn't turn into a whole other thing. And that's very cultural. Sometimes when you talk to people of other cultural backgrounds, they don't have that same trigger in the way that we do when it comes to, can I trust this doctor?
Right.
Can I trust that they're giving me the best care?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Can I trust that they're even though they may be a very good-hearted person, that they haven't checked their own biases at the door? They don't.
They don't. Do you even know
that
you have
need to.
them?
Right. You don't even know that you need to.
Yeah. It's really wild.
Wow. The history of a thing matters. And that leads us to the next thing on the wheel, which is symbols. And it's funny because as we were talking about history, I'm thinking Sankofa.
Yeah.
Right. The symbol of Sankofa, which it can be represented I've seen it two different ways, almost kind of looking almost like a heart.
Yeah.
With the little squirrely things. And then, of course, the bird looking with its neck full belly and with its neck twisted backwards, looking back to move forward. That being an Adinkra symbol, one of the symbols that African peoples use, right? Oftentimes we reference a lot of folk, especially folk in the culture, have Adinkra symbols tattooed on their bodies or things like that because of what they mean. And I think when we're thinking about the healing wheel and this process of healing, the symbols, the things in our lives that we experience that stand for or carry the meaning of or represent something else that matters too as part of our healing, because it's part of how we see the world. It's part of how we show up, and aspects of us are represented in the world as well.
Yeah. I really love that whole the symbols, and with it being right next to art, on the wheel, but just symbols in general. For us, it's like, it's almost hard for me to separate those two, symbols and art, because for us, art was not just something, that it wasn't just entertainment, right? It was just like this wheel, it was interwoven, everything is connected, so it's
Life
art,
is art.
and life is art, God is art, divine feminine, divine masculine, you know what I mean, just everything, nature itself is art, people study one plant and just look at all the intricacies of it, and then study how then that plant, based on its artistic design, also heals the body. What is it? The doctrine of signatures, I think it is, in plants, where it's like how, for example, like a walnut looks like a brain. So we understand that the components of it actually help the brain, and so how a lot of plants look like the parts of your body that is healing. So again, it's like symbols, and our culture, people of African descent have a symbol, like even if we just look at the hieroglyphs, like it's a story, it's a symbol, it's a talisman, it's a healer, like even just looking at it changes your psychology. And we even understand that now in Western science, like when there are things that they'll put sometimes hidden symbols in TV shows or things like that, and you don't consciously know that you're seeing it, but your brain knows, and your brain immediately adjusts according to what it sees.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, a lot of times it's more detrimental. But in our indigenous culture, symbols were used for power and for healing, not always like this trickery thing. You know what I mean? Not manipulation. You know what I mean?
That makes me think of I'm gonna say like indigenous medicine, so to speak. um, where your totem may be wolf or bear, but there's a whole study of that particular animal that has particular properties and qualities and behaviors, and how those behaviors play out in your destiny and your healing, the way that you should, the things that you should do to heal, the things that you need to address. Like that is symbology and art, but that's because it becomes from years of the culture that studies that has studied and looked at these animals and their behaviors and seen how what they eat and how they behave and how they react in times of stress. And that's assigned to a person, and then those same kind of behaviors and plants and things are for that person's healing.
I was thinking about, as you were talking, I was thinking about the animal totems, you know, and I was thinking about Chinese zodiac, you know, like, and they have the year of the
tiger,
the year of the tiger, the year of the horse, the year of the whatever, right? and how there's supposed to be certain aspects of your life that if you study this, you know, like I was born in the year of the horse, so what does that mean? It means this, that, you know.
This is the year of a horse.
Right, it is.
So that's kind of groovy. It's your year, girl. Go get it. But yeah,
take off.
And these are all things that we know the symbols of them, and sometimes when you see it, you instantly say, "Oh, you know, that's my," like you said, that's my symbol. But what does that trigger in us? You know, like there's something that happens when you kind of connect to the symbolism of these things, and what does that mean? So there's something being communicated, you know, that is on a very subconscious level.
And it's a language, if I could say this too, because like when I think we were talking earlier, your earrings, you're wearing the deeper symbol Jinyame, and which means accept God, accept EXCEPT, like God is the exception, God is the all, is the everything, right? And if I know that and I see that symbol on you, now I know I can connect to you in a way. There's it's a communication without speaking.
Without saying word.
You know, if I don't know Omilade and I see you in the airport somewhere, we're just two women walking through the airport, and I see something that you're wearing, a symbol that you're wearing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. There's a cultural connection there. There's a language. And I don't think we oftentimes get credit for that, especially as so-called Black people, African people of African descent, because we're always told that we don't have a culture, which really annoys me. But sometimes we're told that we don't have a culture. And one of the things in culture is language. Language is very important in culture. And our language oftentimes is through symbols.
Yeah.
So you're already communicating to me. And it could be 1,000 other people who don't even understand.
Right.
But I see
They
those
haven't a clue.
earrings. I see your necklaces. You know what I mean? I see what you're wearing, and I know. Okay, boom, boom, boom. And the more you know, it's like, ooh, now you got a storyline. You got a history.
Right,
You got,
right.
you know, it's so much that goes into that. You know, it's so beautiful.
Absolutely. And right, we think of, and like you said, you talk about the beauty of it, the art. And that this part of humanity, you said that the symbols sometimes are the art, but the art in the form of all of the things, artistic and creative, dance, poetry, singing, writing, painting, right, artistry, all of those things, but the act of being an orator, right? You know, a public speaker and
a storyteller,
right? Which is very much indigenous to Black folk, right? We are a storytelling people. So many of our traditions are passed down that way, and that is such an important part of what informs us as artists. I remember when I first saw painting by, what's the brother? Basquiat.
Oh yeah,
Basquiat.
Ba-
Bas.
Basquiat.
Basquiat. And I remember hearing the name and seeing the art and thinking, okay, another old dead white dude, right? Because that was how we were kind of taught, the Picasso and those guys, right? And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, that's cool, whatever. And then I was like, wait, what? And I saw a picture. Wait, what? What? We do art too? I remember first learning that and that we were artists too. That black people, black men, right, were artists and were valued for our artistry, right? Because I knew I could draw a little picture, but that somebody valued it, and now I'm learning about this guy in school, and he black. You sure? Right? Like I remember being so amazed by that, and it's just, and that was healing.
Yeah.
Right? That was cathartic. It was healing for me to learn that black folk produced art, produced beautiful art, produced valuable art. We are creative.
Yeah.
Right? To learn that. Right, to not just know it on the inside, but to know that my people are.
Yeah.
And that's something. Oh my God.
No, I was just thinking about how when I was younger, and I remember going to see an exhibit of Faith Ringgold.
Ooh, Faith Ringgold.
And she did a lot of quilting, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, that you could take something that you would sleep upon, like a quilt, but you would create a story for me to lay beneath,
Wow.
I just really thought about and then, of course, quilting, we've been doing that from time ever since, and the symbols that were embedded into that, like even, some of those symbols meant, that you were going north, and some symbols meant, even the way we braided our hair, certain things that was art. It was like it didn't look like it wasn't interpreted as art, but it was very much an artistic understanding that you had to have in order to be able to look at that and say, this means that, and to pass it on to someone else to say, when you see someone's hair that is braided this way, it means that they're from this particular area, this particular tribe, this particular understanding of the world. They have a world lens, as we talked about earlier, that is shaped by this particular understanding. And then I was watching something the other earlier today, and it kind of they were talking about the food, and I was thinking about even that. You wouldn't think of that as art, but look at how it's been commercialized. The way that we created sustenance for our families. And now there are Southern food, soul food restaurants across the world.
Yes, ma'am.
Not just, in the U.S., but period. So we've been informing this society and the broader humanity.
Yes, ma'am.
From ever since, and it's something that we don't give ourselves enough credit for. The way we live is art.
Yes. I know that was a part of Mama Nia's intention in adding history to this wheel. It's not just your personal history, but when you study history and the history of your people and how I'm going to talk about black culture, how it has informed everybody else's and influenced everybody else. Like our actual stuff from multiple countries in Africa have been stolen and placed in other countries for display.
Yeah.
Never to be valued in those places, but never compensated towards those countries or those people that it came from. Barely credited, and then other stuff that's been taken for fashion, for other cultures to assimilate, and then try to turn it into theirs, like the Afro. It's been called the cloud. Cloud bob.
Bob.
What?
Oh, they try to,
You gotta be kidding me. The cloud bob.
Yeah, the cloud
Are you
bob.
for real?
These people
Oh,
are out
wow.
of their mind.
Yeah, like you know, and how you were talking about the way that people braid their hair, and then it's backwards and ghetto, or until
Yeah.
somebody else does it that's famous, and now it's cute and couture and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we understood more about how just being in this reality,
Yeah.
you know, just like if you could really just get to a point where it's like my very presence here is an artistic expression, you know, of my connection to the Most High and my connection to everybody who came before me that is responsible for me being here. If we can really really just grasp how fucking awesome that is. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yes.
wow, just that one fact, if you didn't have nothing else to anchor yourself to, that if you could just say that my very reason for being in this reality, just because I showed up, you know, just because I showed up, I am the outpicturing of something so fabulous that you don't have to understand, but I do. You know, it's really it's empowering. I think that's the word. You know, when you realize that, and if you can teach that to your children, and you can impart that to, and you can remember it and meditate it on it, and keep it in your own heart when things get real dark, you will be okay. That heals you. It really does. That understanding will heal your heart. I promise you.
It's funny because that leads us right back to identity.
Yeah.
That leads us right to identity. And so I see it now. I see it now. I see culture kind of, and I know it's a wheel, right? So we're not pinpointing saying this has got to be it. But I see culture now based on our conversation today is being kind of the thing that starts the wheel. You know, culture as that place where you are born into, and your traditions and values and the history. You learn all of these things, the symbol, the art, and that is who you are. That is who you are. What a dope. That's super awesome.
And then that identity gets to make the choice to keep the wheel spinning.
Yes. Girl, I'm about to take off running.
Wow, what you
That
identify, but then
identity
you have a
gets-
chance to make new choices and see the culture in a different way, or use it in a different way, and keep the wheel going.
Keep the wheel going.
You have values that you came up with, but then maybe you have a new value that, you know, I value this because of the way that I've interacted with people. This is my value, and I value being in these kinds of relationships and operating in this kind of way. And so you make new choices, and you're always changing and evolving, growing and healing.
Right on.
That's what I love about it. Like the healing wheel isn't just about just you know, you're like, okay, here I go again. But it's about the forward movement, you know. So it's also not about getting stuck in, like, you know, people say, oh, are you healing forever, you know, or what have you. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But I think the thing is, in terms of the wheel of healing, is that whatever you learn, like if I learn that there's a particular herb or medicine that works, it's my job to roll that wisdom on down and pass it on. You know, keep the wheel moving. The wheel gets stuck when we're not passing it down. So I think that's a major part of healing. Even with our own retreat, the Healing Wheel Retreat, I think what makes it so beautiful is that the women who attend, they pass learning, that healing down, so it doesn't just get stuck in their own heads, or you know, that's what makes the wheel. The wheel has to move. If not, then
what's the point of having a wheel? A wheel is only a wheel if you.
A wheel is only a wheel if you roll it. Absolutely. Wow, that is a great way of looking at this, and I'm thinking, looking at time, what this conversation about the healing wheel, about how we have to look at healing as an iterative process that is constantly going and changing and going and changing, and that we see ourselves as whole humans who are also constantly growing, right? Like, no, what do we say? You don't even. It's interesting because even when you're dead, your hair kind of continues to grow a little bit, and you know, but you, right, nails keep growing, but you become part of the ecosystem, right? You become part of the dirt, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Cycle of
Right,
life.
the cycle of life.
It's
This whole
it's another
thing.
wheel.
It's a whole nother wheel. What a beautiful thing. So I love it. And what we do, and as Aki brought up, at the Healing Wheel Retreat, is we are touching in on every aspect of these things and bringing them, showing women how all of how all of these things come together and are part of the healing, whether we're dancing or praying or meditating or crying or doing singing karaoke or
and eating healthy food and talking about healing.
Yeah, man. Learning and listening to music and creating empowerment playlists and all of those things. It's such a beautiful part of who we are. I'm grateful for the Healing Wheel. I'm grateful for this framework that gives us this kind of a blueprint, like this way of seeing ourselves as beings capable of healing in ways that are meaningful for us. As chocolate people.
Meaningful, fulfilling,
Meaningful and fulfilling.
Well, you know, I'm going to say this. One thing I also appreciate about the Healing Wheel is that you don't have to come to the retreat feeling as if, oh, I don't have anything to do here. You know, it's like I'm just coming to be with my sisters. You know, it's like you can come with that and as the idea, but you're going to leave more integrated into your own understanding of how awesome you are, how amazing you are, and how this retreat can't be what it is without you being there. You know, because it's like when you realize, just like we talk about the spokes on the wheel, every one of the sisters that show up for this retreat are another spoke on this wheel. Everybody that is there gives something to them of themselves to the collective whole, and then we are all enriched by that. You know, so I come away from the retreat every year, and I feel like as often as we've done it, I always come away feeling whole, more complete, more intentionally anchored in an understanding of my importance in this big world, and that I share this ecosystem of healing with such powerful women. It's really a beautiful thing to walk away from there and feel like, you know what, we are some badasses. You're like, yeah, you know, you feel like you can leave there really do all the, you feel like you could really like change the world, and you can.
And you can.
Because what Santos so say? Change
the world by changing me.
Woo! Yes. What an awesome conversation. The Healing Wheel. We talked about what it is, all the aspects of it, all the spokes on the wheel, and even how we use that as a foundation for our Healing Wheel retreat. So thank you. I want to thank you for joining us today. I think we are closing out.
So much,
Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us today and peeking in on this here conversation. And I want to say, make sure you visit our website, indigocac.org. INDIGOSCAC.org, especially. So check out what we do, all of our programs, but especially if you are a woman of color and you are interested in joining us for our Healing Wheel Retreat, 4 days, 3 nights, Labor Day weekend. We do it every year. It is an amazing experience where we tap in. We tap into all of the healing that's there for us, right? All that is there for us. It is an opportunity for sisterhood, for building, for, again, tapping in, for staying in the momentum of healing.
Yeah.
Right.
Get it
Right
right
on.
healing will turn.
Keep it turning. Oh man. So y'all ready? This has been another episode of Indigo's Ideas.
We love you.
We love you. Right on.